Building a $2 billion stadium is difficult under any circumstances. Building one in Buffalo, New York, makes that challenge exponentially harder. The climate in Western New York ranks among the most punishing in North America for large-scale construction. By November 2025, the Bills' new stadium is nearly enclosed, despite conditions that would shut down projects in most other cities. Welcome to Big Builds. Buffalo's location on the eastern shore of Lake Erie creates a weather pattern that defines the region. Lake effect snow is not an occasional inconvenience. It is a structural reality that governs daily life from November through March. When cold air moves across the warmer waters of Lake Erie, it picks up moisture. That moisture turns into snow as the air reaches land. The result is intense, localized snowfall that can drop feet of accumulation in a matter of hours. This phenomenon does not follow a predictable schedule. Forecasts can shift within days. A clear week can turn into a whiteout with little warning. For construction crews working on a stadium project, that unpredictability is a constant threat. Materials scheduled for delivery might arrive late or not at all. Concrete pours planned weeks in advance can be delayed if temperatures drop too low or if snow covers the site faster than crews can clear it. Equipment that functions normally in dry conditions becomes unreliable when ice forms on hydraulics and control systems. The construction timeline for new Highmark Stadium does not pause for winter. The stadium must open in time for the 2026 NFL season. That means work has continued through 2 full winters already, and a third is beginning as the project enters its final year. Crews have been operating in conditions that most construction managers would consider unworkable. Wind is a greater obstacle than snow. Lake Erie generates wind patterns that sweep across the Orchard Park site with little resistance. Open fields surround the stadium location. There are no natural barriers to slow the gusts. When wind speeds reach certain thresholds, crane operations stop. Steel beams cannot be lifted safely. Facade panels cannot be positioned accurately. Workers cannot operate at height without unacceptable risk. Every lift is planned around weather windows. Crews monitor forecasts constantly, looking for gaps between storm systems. When conditions align, teams work extended shifts to maximize progress before the next system arrives. The placement of the final steel beam in April 2025 was not just a ceremonial milestone. It represented the successful completion of thousands of individual lifts, each one dependent on favorable wind conditions. Material delivery becomes a logistical puzzle in winter conditions. Trucks carrying steel components, facade panels, and mechanical equipment must navigate roads that can become impassable within hours. Suppliers schedule shipments based on weather forecasts that may change before delivery dates arrive. Storage on site requires careful planning. Materials that can tolerate exposure are staged in designated zones. Temperature-sensitive equipment must be moved into temporary shelters immediately upon arrival. The coordination between suppliers, transportation companies, and on-site crews operates on razor-thin margins. A delayed shipment can cascade through the schedule, forcing crews to shift to alternate tasks while waiting for critical components. The bowl structure of the stadium is partially embedded into the ground. The seating deck sits approximately 35 feet below grade. This design choice reduces wind exposure inside the venue, but it creates complications during construction. Excavation in Western New York means dealing with groundwater, frozen soil, and shifting drainage patterns. Concrete foundations must be poured in conditions where temperature control becomes critical. If concrete freezes before it cures, structural integrity is compromised. Crews use temporary enclosures and heating systems to maintain workable temperatures, but those systems add cost and complexity to every pour. By November 2025, the exterior facade is nearly complete. Closing the building envelope is essential. Once the shell is sealed, interior work can proceed with some protection from the elements. Climate-controlled zones can be established inside. Materials that cannot tolerate freezing temperatures can be stored on site. Workers can operate in more predictable conditions. But getting to this point required months of exposure to the full force of Buffalo's weather. The images coming from the construction site tell part of the story. Light towers illuminate the steel framework in shades of orange and white. The contrast between the warm glow of the work lights and the cold blue-gray of winter skies captures the scale of the challenge. Crews in insulated gear move across platforms and walkways, working under floodlights as daylight hours shrink. Snow accumulates on unfinished surfaces, only to be cleared repeatedly as work progresses. The site never looks clean. It looks active, chaotic, and relentless. Inside the stadium bowl, crews are beginning installation of the natural grass playing surface. This is one of the most technically demanding aspects of the project. Grass requires specific conditions to establish healthy root systems. Temperature, moisture, and sunlight all need to be managed carefully. Installing a field in late autumn in Buffalo means fighting against the calendar. The grass will not have ideal growing conditions for months. It will spend much of the winter dormant. Protected by snow cover and subsurface heating systems, the field design includes advanced drainage and climate control infrastructure. Heating elements are embedded beneath the turf to prevent the soil from freezing solid. This allows the grass to survive harsh winters and recover quickly in spring. Drainage systems channel water away from the playing surface to prevent flooding and ice formation. These systems are not visible to fans, but they represent millions of dollars in engineering and materials. Without them, maintaining a natural grass field in Buffalo would be impossible. The decision to use natural grass instead of artificial turf reflects the bill's commitment to player safety and game quality. Natural grass provides better traction and reduces joint stress compared to synthetic surfaces. It also preserves the aesthetic and tradition of outdoor football in harsh conditions, but it requires continuous maintenance and monitoring. The groundskeeping team will need to protect the field through the remainder of construction, ensure it survives the winter, and have it game-ready by summer 2026. Temperature swings add another layer of difficulty. Buffalo does not experience steady cold. The region cycles through freeze-thaw patterns that make planning difficult. A stretch of above freezing temperatures can turn snow into slush and create muddy conditions on site. Then temperatures drop again and everything refreezes. Materials expand and contract. Seals and joints are tested repeatedly. Any weakness in waterproofing or insulation becomes evident quickly. The construction teams on site are not working with experimental methods. Cold weather construction is a well-understood discipline. Contractors in northern climates have developed techniques to manage these challenges. Temporary enclosures allow concrete work to proceed in freezing temperatures. Heated blankets protect freshly poured surfaces. Insulated tarps cover materials that cannot tolerate cold. Chemical additives adjust concrete curing times to account for low temperatures. Ground heaters thaw frozen soil before excavation. These solutions work, but they are expensive and time-consuming. The schedule pressure is constant, delays compound. A lost day in December cannot be recovered in February because February brings its own challenges. The project team has built contingency time into the schedule, but those buffers shrink every time weather forces a pause. Coordination between trades becomes more complex when conditions limit the number of crews that can work simultaneously. Interior finishes cannot begin until the shell is closed. Mechanical systems cannot be fully tested until power is available. Technology installations depend on stable temperatures and low humidity. Every phase depends on the phases before it, and weather impacts all of them. The broader region is watching this project closely. The Bills are Western New York's most visible institution. The stadium represents the largest construction project in the area's history. Thousands of workers have been employed on site since 2023. Local suppliers have provided materials. Regional subcontractors have secured work through the Community Benefits Agreement. The economic impact extends far beyond the construction phase, but the construction phase is what people see. Every day the stadium rises is a day the region feels connected to something larger. Other NFL projects have faced weather challenges, but few operate under conditions as consistently difficult as Buffalo's. Green Bay deals with cold, but Lambeau Field renovations occurred over multiple years with significant off-season pauses. Chicago's climate is harsh, but Soldier Field is smaller in scale and located in a dense urban environment with more infrastructure support. Denver sits at altitude with cold temperatures, but the city receives far less precipitation than Buffalo. Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and Miami face heat and logistics challenges, but winter weather is not a factor. Buffalo is building at a scale and timeline that would test any market, and doing it in a climate that makes every task harder. The fact that this project is on schedule is not luck. It is the result of rigorous planning, experienced contractors, and a willingness to work through conditions that most organizations would avoid. The Bills and their construction partners understood from the beginning that weather would be the primary variable. They built the schedule around it. They staged materials to account for delivery disruptions. They front-loaded critical path work to occur during favorable weather windows. They invested in temporary climate control systems that other projects might skip. As November 2025 transitions into December, the focus shifts to interior build-out. The exterior shell is closing. The field is in. The structure is sound. The next 6 months will determine whether the stadium opens on time. But the hardest part of the challenge is visible every morning when crews arrive on site and assess the conditions. Buffalo's climate does not cooperate. It tests. And so far, the project has passed every test. If you want to stay updated on every major NFL stadium development, like this video and subscribe.